If you watch only one French film from 1995 about a mad scientist from a surreal, dystopian future kidnapping children to steal their dreams to prevent him from aging, then make it this one. Wes, Darling Beat, and special guest Steve visit the City of Lost Children on View the Right Thing.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of View the Right Thing. This is Wes, and with me always is Darling Beat. Say hi, Beat.
Hello, hello.
Hey, Beat, did you know that we have our first ever, since you've been doing it at least, our first ever guest on for this episode? Yeah.
Where?
He's right here. Let me just introduce you to Steve, Indiana Jaws Moulton. Hey, Steve.
Well, hello, Wes. Hello, Beat. It's great to be back on the microphone for View the Right Thing.
Well, I'm really excited to have you back. I missed you.
Missed you too, man.
Oh man, it's so great. Maybe if things go well, maybe we can get back on our do an occasional Spielberg episode.
Whoa, that's right.
We started that forever ago. We didn't get very far. I think we got through Raiders of the Lost Ark, maybe, and that was it.
That sounds correct.
Either that or we were on Raiders of the Lost Ark. I can't remember.
Both sound correct.
All right. Well, so since Beat doesn't know you really, and you've been gone for a long time, let's talk about a little bit about who Steve Moulton is. Steve's obviously a close friend of mine. Did the podcast with me for years, and he's an actor extraordinaire.
Oh wow, extraordinaire!
Heck yeah, you've done some extraordinary things in your acting days, sir.
I suppose that's true. I do have a knack for getting very brief parts in things that turn out to be larger than anyone expected.
Yeah.
And that's pretty fun.
What's maybe your favorite thing that was larger than expected? What might Beat have seen you in?
Well, there's a very good chance that all these years later, you might have seen me in something called Sharknado, which nobody knew that movie was going to do what it did, and now it's a perfectly normal phrase that people use every day.
Yes, I was not shocked.
There you go. Yeah, people say it all the time now. They're still hashtagging it every day on Instagram and Twitter.
That's crazy.
It's wild how what happened with that Sharknado. And then, of course, most recently, you can see me in a little show called Young Rock on NBC, Season 2, Episode 7, playing real-life professional wrestler Haystacks Calhoun.
Sweet. And how was shooting that? So that's a period. It's like 70s or 80s?
If the math checks out, I think it would have to be very early 70s.
Oh, okay.
Maybe the very end of the 60s, but I think I really did the math thoroughly one day, and it came out to around 1971-ish is when that scene takes place.
Wow. Crazy.
It's a flashback within a flashback, and it is quite crazy, but it was a lot of fun.
You've done period stuff before too, weren't you? On you played like a gangster or something, didn't you?
Yeah, on Showtime's Penny Dreadful, City of Angels, I got to play a tough for a Jewish mafia boss played by Brad Garrett, and in my big scene, none other than Nathan Lane comes to visit the mafia boss, and I very briefly halt his progress.
All right.
and then I take him right to the boss.
Yeah. Any other fun thing? The one that you and I most recently talked about that I was really excited that you were a part of. You were part of a Jim Henson production.
Oh, that's true. When they rebooted Fraggle Rock just recently, I am in, I believe it's called Fraggle Rock Back to the Rock. I'm in the final episode of the season, and I'm throwing a Fraggle out of a concert. I don't know if I want to spoil which Fraggle it is or which concert it is, but it was
You big
an
bully.
absolutely awesome day.
Yeah, I bet. Any others? Any other highlights you wanna mention? I think it's fun to hear all the stuff that you've done.
Well, in the podcasting world, you can hear me in quite a few episodes of a show called Suspense, which is an anthology series that sort of does old-time horror stories in radio play format.
That's some other pretty big actors in it too, right?
Yeah, there's been a lot of voice talent in there. We've had a lot of people that have done like DC comic hero voices. So many people. We've had Chandani Parekh, who is now just all over so many cartoons. I can't even think. I know she's in that Batman Vehicles cartoon, and I know she's in Big Nate on Nickelodeon. We've had, oh my gosh, Kevin, who's done the voice of Batman for so many years.
Oh my god, now I can't think of what his name is. Kevin
Cartwright?
No,
Kevin something else.
Why can't I remember it? I love that guy.
Well, we've had him. We've had
Conroy.
Conroy. I was close.
Yeah.
And we've had, I believe, was it Susan Eisenberg, who has done Wonder Woman's voice in cartoon form for many, many years.
Oh yeah.
And then, very fortunately, I got cast in 3 episodes of a podcast called Blackout with Rami Malek right before he won his Oscar.
Oh, that's the one I was thinking of.
That was a whole lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I played a New England guy who, when the entire country is experiencing a blackout, he and some other buddies take it upon themselves to become the neighborhood watch and start harassing people that they don't like.
Yeah. Crazy. Well,
How dare them?
Happens all too often.
For anybody that's new to the podcast, we have had quite a few new people listening lately. And, you can also hear Steve on, 50-something episodes of You the Right Thing. So
that's true. Was it
free
only 50?
It's only 50-something, yeah.
But we watched 2 movies for most of those, didn't
Yeah,
we?
a lot of those we watched 2 movies.
Maybe that's why it feels like more than 50.
Do you know what our most downloaded episode is? It might blow your mind.
Our most downloaded episode is Paths of Glory.
No, that's an interesting guess. Okay. No, it is Sophie's Choice and North by Northwest, our very first episode.
Really?
It is consistently in the top 5 every single month.
Wow, I never would have guessed. I guess if it's our first episode, I guess that's
people started at the beginning.
Their due diligence and being like, well, I'm going to listen to episode 1 before I listen.
Yeah. So
that's pretty cool. Wow.
It was a good episode.
I'll say a great episode.
Yeah.
But boy, oh boy, that's Sophie's Choice. That's a heartbreaker.
Yeah. It was good, though. Really liked it. All right. So, I guess that's enough about Steve.
Oh, okay.
Unless there's anything else you want to plug or tell us about?
Well, you can also catch me, just quick as a flash of lightning if you watch a little show on Netflix called I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robinson.
That's
You'll
right.
see me in the very first episode.
That's a really fun sketch.
Going Turbo Time. It's a fun sketch. I still don't know how I got the part for it because the audition for it was just so very strange and it was hard to know exactly what to do. And I guess I just proved that I was game. And so they were like, this guy's game for it. Let's hire him for this absolutely crazy thing we're about to do.
Yeah.
It's been a real treat.
Yeah. All right. So, Beat, let's move on to you. Anything exciting going on in your world? I feel like I know the answer. It's always the same thing, but anything anything you want to share?
No.
All right. Cool.
Still breathing, so that's always good.
I appreciate that you're breathing. It makes me happy. We don't do this very much anymore, Steve, or we're starting to move away from this a little bit just because Beat and I don't go out to the theater a ton these days. Ever since COVID, it's kind of, made me skittish at least to go to the theater too much. But for old time's sake, I'm going to ask the question: has anybody seen any trailers that they're excited about?
Oh yeah.
Okay, let's start with Steve, because Steve knew right away.
Well, I went to see Black Adam last night, and there was a new trailer for Wakanda Forever.
Okay, well, don't say anything, because I only saw the one, and I'm trying not to learn any more about the movie. But did the trailer sufficiently hype the movie for you?
Absolutely. It looks like it's going to be just completely outstanding.
Yeah.
I know some people that have already seen it. I've told them not to even tell me their opinions, not even a thumbs up or thumbs down.
Sure.
But that trailer makes it look smashing.
Yeah. So I have a friend who writes at The Hollywood Reporter, and he was at the premiere, and he said a couple things, non-spoilery things, but I'm not even gonna say, I'm not gonna tell you what. It sounds like you want to stay away from what people are saying about it, but yeah, I got to hear.
Well, everyone was dressed beautifully.
Everyone was dressed beautifully. That's true. But yeah, so I'm very excited. I have tickets to that. I am going to that in the theater. So
awesome.
It beat any trailers.
No.
Cool. I saw a trailer that I'm really excited about. It's going to be on. It's going to air on HBO Max this month.
I have that.
It is the new movie, the true follow up to A Christmas Story.
Oh yeah.
Little Ralphie has grown up and goes home with his family to celebrate the holidays with his mom, and there's lots of little throwbacks to the original film. I wasn't clear. I didn't look it up, but it looked like maybe that was Peter Billingsley playing Ralphie again.
Oh yeah, I'm 90% certain that it is.
Yeah,
it's gotta be, right? It's gotta be.
Yeah,
and it looks like they've jumped it forward by about 35 years into the future too. So that'll be a nice touch.
It looks really fun and silly, and it makes me want to rewatch the original again. I've seen that movie a million times. Normally these days, I don't watch them over and over and over again these days, because I'm just like, oh, there's so much to watch. I'd rather watch something new than something old. But, or rather not something old, but something I've seen before.
Yeah. So,
I tend to not do that, but I might rewatch just so that way I can, because there's Flick, they show in the thing. I saw a brief glimpse of Scott Farkus in he's in there for like a split second. He's in it.
I might not have seen this trailer. Maybe I've only seen the teaser then.
Yeah, it looks good.
I'll watch the trailer after we record.
I don't know if the movie will actually be good, but it looks fun.
It definitely looks fun. And look at it this way. There have been a small handful of sequels to The Christmas Story.
My Summer Story.
My Summer Story, also known as It Runs in the Family. There was Ollie Hopnoodle's Haven of Bliss with Jerry O'Connell. Mm-hmm. And there was A Christmas Story, too, just a couple of years ago. And this new Christmas Story with Peter Billingsley, if he's returning as Ralph, it's already going to be better than those others.
Oh, yeah. My Summer Story is pretty rough.
Could be better. It does have Kieran Culkin in it, getting his start there. And now we love him so much in Succession. Mm. But boy, oh boy, I never wanted to think of little Ralph Parker doing the stuff that what's his name, Roy, does in Succession.
Yeah.
He does some creepy stuff.
Okay, so I did see another trailer. I don't know that it looks all that good. But
which trailer?
I saw, and this one's going to premiere on Paramount Plus, I think, this month. Blues Big City Adventure, the Blues Clues movie. I'm probably not the audience for that, but the little part of me kind of wants to watch it. Yeah. So I worked with Joe and Steve once, and so I sort of, have a little bit of love. Those guys are really special, sweet guys.
Steve.
I love Steve. Yeah, I love Steve too. He's really great.
Thanks, you guys. I love you both. I'm right here. You can
so
say you if you want.
Yeah. So I did. I was working for a production house in Louisiana, and I started working for them just before Hurricane Katrina hit. This was in Baton Rouge, and Nickelodeon, and I don't think this ever got publicized, but Nickelodeon did like a field day for displaced kids and families, where they like just tried to give them a day of fun. They basically set up a fun fair kind of a thing with like bouncy houses and autographs and costume characters and rides and food and stuff and like toys. It was really, really cool. And both Steve and Joe were at that, and so we followed them around with a camera for a bunch. And those guys were just like super, super sweet. And you know, I don't think anybody really knows that it happened other than the people that were there.
That's so awesome. I never did hear about this event.
Yeah. So yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Extremely cool.
There is one last trailer I did see today.
Yeah.
I'm gonna mention. It's called Mickey: The Story of a Mouse. It's going to be on Disney Plus also, I believe, this month.
Fun.
Yeah, so it's a documentary all about Mickey Mouse. So I'm pretty excited for it. I'm pretty excited.
Pretty excited. Oh, I'm also psyched for the Devotion, the trailer for Devotion with what is his name? Jonathan Majors? Is that his name?
Yeah, Jonathan Majors is a person, is an actor. I don't know this this movie.
It basically looks like Top Gun, but set during the Korean War. So they're using
Cool.
older planes with propellers on them, but it very much looks like these guys were the Maverick and Goose of that conflict.
You know,
I believe it's based on a true story if the trailer is telling the truth.
now that you say it, I've seen a thumbnail for it, but I haven't watched,
right.
I haven't watched the trailer. So
Devotion.
I'll make sure I check it out.
Looks good.
Well, anybody have anything they want to talk about before we jump into this movie called City of Lost Children?
I'll plug one more project.
Yeah, please.
So, having won a couple of awards in some film festivals,
Yeah.
you can now go to a streaming service called IndieFlix, and you can watch a short, very scary short film called Wrightwood. That's Wrightwood, Wright Wood. With a supporting character played by myself, and if I'm not mistaken, what was your exact title? Were you first AD?
I was the first assistant director, and I'm a producer on the project.
First AD and producer Wes Weitzenhofer, your host of View the Right Thing.
It did win some awards, didn't it?
I believe so. At least one, but I think several. And we
Yeah.
were nominated for Best Ensemble Cast.
Yeah.
So that's real fun.
That was mostly a very fun shoot.
Right. There was some chicanery once we got to the house, which
Oh, man.
I'll let you tell that story if you want to. But
you mean the guy that threatened to kill me?
that's, I believe, how it went.
Yeah. Yeah, I was almost murdered in the woods in California, so that was fun. It's probably the only time. I mean, I've done a lot of like kind of weird things on sets. You know, I've done the I don't want to say to do that. Don't ever do it. I hate that I'm going to say that I've done it, but I've shot on train tracks before.
Oh.
I've trespassed to get a shot before. Although shooting on train tracks is trespassing.
Technically true.
Trespassed in a cemetery to get a shot before.
Oh.
So you know, I've done some crazy things. I've experienced some crazy things and a lot of crazy people. I've maybe fibbed to the authorities before, and never have I ever actually felt like I was in danger until this moment.
Right.
This was, so we were trying to find the place that we were shooting at. We couldn't find it because the addresses were all weird. And we turned down a private road, which had a whole bunch of properties, a whole bunch of houses. And I saw a house that had a number that was the next number over from the place that we were supposed to be at. And so I got out of the car and walked down a driveway to check out that house to see if I could see the other one. And a guy came out and he was one of the most intimidating people. And he was just eyeing me down and basically, I'm trying to remember what he said. It's been a while, but he was like, "This is a really good way to get yourself shot. I'm going to shoot you." And I was like, "Oh, I'm just looking for this." He's like, "I don't know anything about that, but if you don't get out of here, I am going to shoot you." And
somebody was cooking meth.
Yeah, I don't know, man. He felt like, you know what he felt like? He felt like a dude who really, really wanted to be off the grid. He did not want the government spying on him, kind of a thing. Like it had
got basements full of teens.
Yeah, it had that vibe to it.
Basement full of teens.
and I hightailed out there, but he had his hand. He had one arm like leaning on his railing because he was like on an elevated porch, and the other arm was like down, kind of toward his waist, and I couldn't see what he was doing, if he had a gun or not.
He probably did.
He maybe did. And he even as we backed down the private road away, he just eyed me the entire time. And I, was definitely very confident that had I, mouthed off or something, I'd probably be dead. So
right. Yikes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm very glad that you didn't mouth off.
Yeah, no.
That would have been absolutely horrifying.
Yeah. But, yeah, so, yay, Wrightwood. A long way to say hooray for Wrightwood. Fun little short film. We'll make sure you see it at some point, because I know you like the spooky stuff.
Ooh.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I say let's get into it. What do you think?
Yeah.
I agree.
Let's get into this.
All right, The City of Lost Children. This is a movie by two directors, Marc Caro and Jean-Pierre Jeunet, who I really, really like. Just a really distinct visual style. They'd done another film that was pretty big prior to this called Delicatessen, which also has like a really kind of like wacky, strong visual thing going on for it. It's really similar. These two guys ended up splitting up, I think, after their next big one, which was Alien Resurrection. That was like the first like big American film that they had done.
I didn't know that they worked together on that.
Yeah, so it's directed by Jean-Pierre Jeunet, but I think Marc Caro was like the art director maybe on it or something. And
that explains a lot.
A bunch of the actors from this movie are in that one as well. And some of the people from Delicatessen are in this as well. But so the clones from this movie, the Crank, the main villain, I think the Mademoiselle, the mother, is also in it, and maybe a couple other people. But
Ron Perlman.
But the thing that people most know, and Beat hasn't seen this yet, but most people know Jeunet from is Amélie, the Academy Award-winning film Amélie with Audrey Tautou. And then he did...
You haven't seen Amélie?
I have not.
Oh, you're in for a treat.
Yeah,
even I love Amélie.
Amelie's great.
I do not like movies.
Whatever. You love movies. Amélie is very charming and sweet, and it's a great story. And then he did A Very Long Engagement, which is probably his last really big, well-known thing. He's done other stuff, but Very Long Engagement, also Audrey Tautou, which is, I really, really enjoyed the film. Not as good as Amélie, but excellent. And the girl that played Minette in this, by the time A Very Long Engagement came out, she was like 20, and she worked in the costume department on that.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, which is kind of sweet.
Yeah, keep her in the family, so to speak.
Yeah. So Dwayne's probably given a description. I'll just do a short one here. Let's see here. In a surrealistic and bizarre society, children have been abducted by a mad and evil scientist, Crank, who wants to steal their dreams and stop and reverse his accelerated aging process. When the gang of Cyclops kidnap Denry, the little brother of the former whale hunter, One, he is helped by the young street orphan girl Miette, who steals for the Siamese Piev to reach the platform where Crank lives with his cloned dwarf, I think it means lives with his cloned dwarf wife, Mademoiselle Bismuth, his 6 cloned sons, and a brain, basically in a jar, and rescue the children. So that's the basic plot, which even reading that is confusing. So
Indeed.
So as always, I'm afraid to ask this question, but let's start with Steve. Did you like this film? Did you enjoy it?
Well, I'm glad I got through it. I definitely remember trying to watch this back in the late 90s in my video store days. Mm-hmm. And I don't think I've ever made it to the end. Maybe when I was, on a little bit of the green one night, maybe I made it to the end. But I really don't remember seeing anything past the submarine scene. So tonight, my computer tried to sabotage me 3 times. It only managed to sabotage me twice. But I made it to the end of the movie. I'm glad that I did, but I'm also not exactly in a hurry to watch it again.
So am I hearing you thought it was okay, not your favorite film?
Certainly not my favorite film. Visually wonderful. Mm-hmm. But boy, oh boy, there was a lot of just like really annoying stuff in the performances.
Sure.
And so maybe in a couple more years I'd give it another go. But right now, in this moment, I'm glad the movie is over.
Yeah. Okay. Beat, did you have a good time? Did you enjoy the film?
I was absolutely bored out of my mind. So sorry.
That's okay.
I was just like reading and trying to comprehend, because sometimes they would say something and like the subtitles would be a little bit jumbled. Like they would say it and it would be backwards. Mm-hmm. And then it just felt like a lot of what was going on. It just kept jumping from a different set of characters to another one, to another one, to another one. And I wasn't really following the plot, but I do love that one is Hellboy, because I love Hellboy.
Yeah.
Because I was like, yo, who is this man? I know this man.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. But I don't know. I would not watch this again.
Yeah. So this is, I've seen it multiple times now. And I'm actually kind of in the boat with both of you. Like I find it to be too slow for its own good. And I don't think it's necessarily that the plot's bad. I think it's just is a little unoriginal. And there's, that whole like style over substance thing. I think it suffers from that a bit.
Big time.
But when this came out in the 90s, this was like a really big deal. It has, at the time, it had more special effects than any film in French history. So it's kind of a big deal. But the movie ended up bombing. It didn't make its money back in the theater.
Not even in Europe?
No.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's one of those movies that's kind of like, and I think for Beat, this is your first one so far on the podcast. This is an art school movie. This is the kind of thing that, like, people like me in film school watched this. So this is your first taste of that, I think, Beat, for the podcast at least.
It reminded me of like the Never Ending Story, where it just kept jumping.
Oh, sure.
Understandable.
I mean, it was a good, like, I liked the plot. I thought the plot was good. I just think it was a lot of razzle dazzle everywhere.
Yeah.
And it could have been taken back, just like the Never Ending Story as well.
Yeah. And I think, to maybe Steve's point, I think if they had like tweaked the plot just a little bit and gave the characters maybe a little bit more depth, I think the performances probably would have been seemed a lot better than they were. I don't think the performances were necessarily terrible or anything, but it's
not terrible, but just grinding at times.
Yeah, like almost like they just were told to just go bigger, go bigger, go bigger.
Yeah,
and there was no like sense of like, oh, let's be a little bit more subtle here. There was never a sense of let's be subtle ever in this film.
Ever. Not once. Except the very, very young kids that were working with Miette they were too subtle.
the little easy
like,
kids.
Yeah, and I was like, but those are little kids. Like, they're supposed to be really. They should be,
Awful.
Hitting the ceiling with how like excited they are about these dangerous things that they've just lived through. But they're just kind of like, whatever, Miette. Sucks to be you, I guess. Bye. And I'm like, how are the kids the least excited people in this movie?
Yeah. Do you know what Miette means?
No, I don't.
It means
Old. I don't know.
No, it means crumb. Like she's a little thing. Like one of the kids' names is Tadpole. And so she's crumb. And then Denri basically means like product or commodity, which we'll kind of cover that here in a little bit, but it obviously means something to the film. You had mentioned like visually you were very like kind of entertained. But how did you feel about it visually, Beat? Silence.
It was I don't know. I liked the city. One thing that I noticed was the city, like you had like the underground and the above ground, and like there was so many different layers, and I love cities like that. I liked that, how like everything tied together. Like they would be in the same area, but someone would be on like grounds above. They'd be lower. Some of the shots were a little weird.
Sure.
There was some holes for me, like plot-wise. Like, not plot-wise, but like the submarine guy, like how they got out and stuff.
Yeah.
Like how he was even down there to begin with.
Yeah, it was just sort of like, all right, this is it. This thing happened, and you're just expected to just go with it.
Yeah.
There was a whole lot of that.
Yeah.
Just go with it. I mean, the whole Flea storyline.
Yeah.
Which is kind of fun, but I was just like, there are so many characters in this, and now there's also a flea that we got to keep track of.
There's something really French about that like sort of thrown in wacky thing. Well, so let me ask you, Beat, what kind of notes did you take? What did you write down?
Oh, goodness. I have like 6 notes.
Okay.
And everything after that was just me staring at the screen. And I was just like trying to find my place.
That's all right. It's all right. All right. So what did you note down? And let's see if we have some things to talk about.
My very first note, so sorry, is what the fuck.
Yeah, I knew it. As soon as we were like 2 minutes in, I was like, I know Beat's like asking herself if she wants to stop doing this podcast.
I honestly was like, I don't even know what movie we're watching today, but you know what? Let's get in it. I know he told me, but I completely forgot. Because I like to go in as blind as possible.
Sure.
I did not know what was going on for the first 5 minutes. And then we were at a circus. And then there was an apple on a string. And that was great. I do want to know, why the hell did the guy put an apple on the string and then wave it in the door? Was it for the kid?
Yeah, he was trying to get the kid to grab the apple so he could reel him in.
Oh.
It was like an... What? It was an apple on a string. It wasn't even a fishing pole.
It was a candied apple.
Oh my god.
I don't even remember seeing that at all.
There was like 4 guys with candied apples. They were like looking in.
Yeah, when they first came to get the little hungry kid.
Yeah. Denry.
The starving child. He literally, I love him. He was eating every second. Oh my god, he was great.
Yeah.
At the very end. Oh no, I don't know, let's get that far. But
even a candle.
So the apple. Even a candle.
Oh, that's right. There was an Anchorman reference. He had a big red candle.
I don't think it was an Anchorman reference.
Sure. 9 years ahead, but
sure.
It counts.
Okay, what were you going to say, Beat? What else do you
have? One of my notes is talking about the bionic people. Well, they're not bionic people, but that was my note. But
the Cyclops?
What was their deal?
So,
like, why did they give up vision? That was
so a bunch of them were already blind, right? So Like the guy that we see get the device put on him is already blind, and that's why he remarks that he can see. And everybody in that whole religious cult, they're all wearing sunglasses because they're all blind. And so they get this implant put over where their eye would be, and he had a little gun, and the gun is like kind of like a parabolic microphone. It's got a little dish on it and a little antenna, and the sound hits that, and it translates sound into vision through that little eye port. So it's basically like going through his eye into his brain and telling his brain the signals of what he's actually seeing. So when the kid screams, that's why it hurts him, is because he's like screaming basically into a microphone, and it's overloading the input and hurting his head.
Well, that's fancy. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a cool idea.
The Cyclops.
The Cyclops.
I did quite enjoy the brain.
The brain in the jar, yeah.
Yeah, he was very bitchy. I liked it.
Was his name Irvin?
Yeah, whenever he was talking to Crank or Crunk, whatever his name is.
Crank.
Yeah, Crank. And he was like pretty much, I don't know if it was gaslighting or just like putting him down in the most sarcastic way. It was hilarious.
It's right from the get-go, too. Like, he tells that story. Yeah.
He's like, maybe it's because you can't have dreams.
Sure. Let's switch it up. Steve, what notes do you have? Do you have a couple?
Oh, I've got roughly 13-ish.
Oh, okay. Well, why don't you give us like 3, and then we'll jump back over to Beat.
My first big note was too many Santas. But then that turned out to be a nightmare, so that does make sense.
Okay, so wait. So in that scene, which Santa are you? Because I'm the one holding the reindeer.
I don't even know which Santa I am. Once a second Santa showed up, I was like, this is not right. There's only one Santa. There should be only one Santa on any screen at any time. This isn't Jingle All the Way. But, so that, I didn't like the idea that there were too many Santas, so much so that it was scaring the child. And then I really hated when Kronk was dressed as Santa and was terrorizing those infants.
Yeah.
That was awful. And it went on forever. And I was just like, everybody who greenlit this day happening should be in jail right now. This is so mean and bad.
Well, if anyone knows Santa, it's you, right? Because you have played Santa.
I did once work for Santa where I was hired to substitute for him on a fairly regular basis for about a month.
Yeah.
At a very specific location.
Yeah.
My other note is just a note of regret because Ron Perlman, when this movie was filmed, was either my age or maybe 1 year older than me. And he's in absolutely excellent shape in this movie.
And he looks so young.
He looks so very young. He's playing the strongest man in the world. And I was like, wow, when was Ron Perlman ever that buff? And I looked up and I was like, oh, he's 1 year older than me in this movie. And I am not buff at all.
This is after Beauty and the Beast, I think, too.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because that was like late 80s, right?
Yeah, but I can't think of anything that he was in between Beauty and the Beast and this movie. But there had to be some stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure.
There had to be. And
well, you know he didn't speak French.
Oh, he learned it for this movie?
He learned his lines for this movie.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, he did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
And then, while I have many other notes, the other one I definitely want to point out is when they get to the cult of the Cyclops, and it's like all that red lighting. Right in that moment, I was like, oh my God, this has to be the inspiration for the Guild of Calamitous Intent on Venture Brothers, if you're familiar with the cartoon Venture Brothers. Yeah, like all of their guildsmen are almost always in like reddish black lighting, and they've all got one kind of cybernetic eye thing going on. And just as soon as it cut to that scene, I was like, oh my God, that's the Guild from Venture Brothers. And the guys from Venture Brothers, they just mine all of pop culture. They would have definitely seen this movie. And I would bet $50 that they drew the inspiration from that scene alone.
Well,
that was exciting as a Venture Brothers stan.
Yeah. This movie definitely has inspired a lot of like pop culture things.
For sure.
One really, really big one that I love is it inspired stuff in a very, very, very popular big video game that has multiple sequels. Beat, do you know? I don't know if you played this game, Beat, but do you know what game this might be? Beat's a big gamer, which is why I asked her. I don't know. I think it's because you haven't played it. So this inspired multiple things in the game BioShock. Yeah. So the stuff. So there's like this, like all these things with like the little sisters or these little girl orphans in the game, and they crawl in and out of the pipes. And there's a shot in this movie where Miette goes up into the pipes, and it's basically a shot out of the game. Like, it's really, really cool. And then they have these like protectors who are these like big guys in diver suits, and they like pick them up and carry them around and stuff. And sometimes the little sisters ride on their backs. Yeah, so it's got a kind of BioShock's got like a 1940s vibe to it. So that kind of gives you, this is like, I think, a nondescript era. Probably what we'd consider to be steampunk. So it's like a past future, or like future retro or whatever. So definitely has inspired some things. So the Venture Brothers thing, I'm sure, no doubt,
it must have.
It's legit.
Simply must have.
How about I give us one more and then we'll go back to Beat.
All right, let's see here. Already mentioned that one. And then I think my other major note is simply when little brother burped, he was eating like a ring bologna thing or something, and for no reason they just cut to a close up of him and have him burp, and I just wrote, little brother burps. This movie is so annoying. It's just like, that absolutely didn't need to happen, and when it happened, it wasn't even that funny.
No, and then they closed the movie with it as well.
Right.
Yeah. It feels very French to me. It feels very like, like the humor and simplicity kind of a thing, which I don't think Americans are really, really into that. But
well, it's like yes and no, but in proper doses, I guess.
Yeah. Read the Room.
Sure, yes, Read the Room.
All right, Beat, what else do you have on your notes?
I love the cat and mouse trick when they were stealing the safe.
Oh,
I
yeah.
thought that was so cool.
Well,
I don't think it would work because there's no way to plan where the mouse would run.
Well, my favorite part of that is, again, going back to like how French this is, they grate cheese. Like you can't get. I mean, that would either happen in a French film or an Italian film, and that's it. Like, in an American film, they would just mash it under a door with a stick.
Mash it under the door with a stick.
Yeah. I did like the sisters as well. I mean, I didn't like them, but I liked their character.
The octopus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought they were really interesting and really weird.
Yeah. Obviously not really conjoined twins.
Yeah, they were just hugging.
They're just hugging. They made a special prosthetic leg for them.
Oh.
Yeah.
Scary. They were scary.
Yeah, they're excellent. They're really, really good. And I think they one of them at least has like continued to work a lot.
Oh, that's cool.
Despite being born in like 1930 or something. But yeah, to Beat, what else you got for us?
Other than that, I really don't have any more notes. That's kind of where I lost my place.
Sure.
So as far as like the plot goes, I was trying to figure out what his end game was. So the brain wanted it to be over.
Yeah. I mean, he knew what he was doing to these children.
Oh, so in the end, he was just regretting it, and so that's why he sent out the message.
Yeah, he was like, we got to take this guy down.
Gotcha.
All right.
And so Minette, what is it?
Miette?
Hold on, wait. Miette got put into the dream. She put herself into the dream machine so that she could defeat, I guess, him.
Yeah, it was. I think it was the point was to distract him so that way they could get the kid out. Because like you remember, she was going to just like take him out, and Irvin was like, no, you'll kill him if you do it that way. You have to go into the dream to rescue him. And so she went in to essentially act as a decoy, so that way they could then, because Crank is directly connected to the mind of the kid. So by putting herself in there, they she basically took the place of the kid, interrupted that, and so they were able to get the kid out. So that's my understanding of what happened.
My only other thing that I wanted to mention was them talking about old and young.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like age played a lot as far as like with certain conversations that they were having. Like, he's not old, he's young, just like you and me are not young, when she was talking to the kids when they were Bad Melvin 1. And then in the end when she grew old.
Yeah, it's a little
pretty cool.
It's a little heartbreaking, right?
Yeah, it was very sad.
Yeah,
and she was like, I had a bad dream. I was old.
Aww.
And it kind of goes to the intention of the film, and I'll kind of talk about that in a second. But one of the things that I like about that is, you mentioned when she says that he's not old, he's young like us. That, like, obviously she's sort of talking about mentally and maybe a little emotionally. And obviously one doesn't see himself as young, like he's protecting of her. And I think one of the things that does to help is to make their relationship not feel creepy. Because if he's old and he's like breathing on her,
Ooh.
like then it becomes like icky, but the idea that he's actually kind of an innocent in all of this as well, sort of like bridges that gap, so you don't get to creepy town. So let's talk a little bit about. I do have one note that we talked a little bit about the visual. Obviously, like the colors and stuff were really, really interesting, and like almost feel like they're not really right. Like nothing. Like the whole movie visually is almost like unsettling, right?
Absolutely.
So one of the things they did is they painted all of the actors' faces white, and then balanced the camera lighting to that, so that way they looked flesh tone, but it changed the look of everything else in the film because of it. So that's sort of how they achieved that sort of visual style. And a lot of filmmakers will do stuff like that. To create like a tone of a room as well. So, famously, the Wachowskis in The Matrix, when you see Neo in his office and everything is like green, nowadays a lot of, they'll film look something, or they'll put, what do they call a palette? What they call a palette in the editing software to it's got like, palettes have different color settings and stuff. Different sharpness and whatever. And so nowadays they would just put a palette onto these things, or color correct it the way they want. But back in the day, we used to. Well, I say we because when I was learning how to do this, that's how we did it. We didn't do stuff in post. We did it all in camera. And so if you want something like that scene where Neo's in his cubicle and everything is like green, you're gonna white balance to, like, let's say you white balance to like an incandescent light or natural sunlight, and then you go into fluorescent, and fluorescent's gonna give it that kind of bluey green, like sickly color. And it's excellent for things like an office cubicle in like a cheap office, or a convenience store is a really great example. So, and then when you white balance to like, natural indoor lighting, and then you go out at night and you're under those like incandescent street lamps, everything looks real orange. So, so in this case, they balanced, rather than to the tone of a room, they balanced to the tone of their skin, or what it should be, and then just let that affect everything else around it.
That explains so much, because, I remember looking at it, and there's so much to see in this movie, but just the color of everything is just, like, not nice.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, okay, there it is, and it's not exactly dull, but it's just like something about it is just a little sickly.
Yeah, sickly is a really great word. It reminds me a lot of both the set design and sort of the color palette reminds me a lot of the Alex Proyas film Dark City with Kiefer Sutherland. Yeah.
Big time Dark City.
I don't know if you've seen that, Beat. Have you seen that? Dark City. So it's like it's sort of like a future retro thing, kind of like this. Maybe less futuristic than this. And it's like a noir detective film. I mean, if you can imagine that type of film in this set, the sets are like very, very similar, where it's like this like dingy, small city feel to it. Like there's something like big about the buildings, but the city feels small. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And so it's these movies are movies where I'm like, I just wish I could be on that set. I think about that a lot with Dark City as well, where I'm just like, I just wish I could just physically walk in this space once. Would just be so cool.
Agreed.
But okay, so let's talk a little bit about sort of the intention of this movie. So this is basically, and it's actually kind of timely for what's going on in the world right now. But this is basically an anti-capitalism movie.
Sure.
So it's there's different sort of I guess pursuits that the people who represent sort of capitalism are going through. So like Crank is trying to like pursue scientific developments, right? He's like using people, not really caring about like how that trickles down to the people below him. All that he cares about is like the end justification, right? The Cyclopses are all about religion, and how what they sell can benefit their religion. And then obviously the octopus, just represents just wealth and greed, right? And how it's obviously anti-capitalist is sort of what that does to the rest of society, and how like, capitalism in the wrong hands hurts everyone else. Mm-hmm. So there's, the exploitation of children, the exploitation of feelings, like emotion, the betrayal of people for greed. So like the Crank basically betrays the original scientist, who's that original clone, right?
Right.
And attempts to kill him and throws his body overboard. And then there's obviously the corruption of innocence as well. So not just that the kids are having their dreams stolen and they're being tortured, but also these other kids are I think to what Beat was saying earlier, Miet is talking about how we're not young, we're old, right?
Right.
Because all of these kids lost their innocence because they're just cogs in the machine of other people higher up than them making money. Like that's all they're good for those people. And so the movie sort of is suggesting that like you can't have, true, like unabashed capitalism and also have, concepts like, originality or a sense of duty or a sense of self-worth. Like all that stuff has to go out the window if all you care about is the bottom line.
Right. Good point.
So that's sort of the thing, and that goes along with, how they see these kids, right? They're just small things like a crumb, and Denry is literally, his name is literally commodity. His name is literally product, and
Gross.
Yeah, and so that's why they're named that, and that's how they're seen by the adults in this film. So it's interesting how, there's a really, I think, kind of heartfelt and maybe somewhat personal message in this film. That's kind of really interesting and maybe a little bit beautiful in a sad way, but it gets a little bit lost in sort of the minutia of telling a story that's maybe not all that coherently told.
I can fully agree with that, and that has way too many actors and and just barely makes it easy to pay attention to any of them.
Yeah. Roger Ebert gave this movie 3 out of, I think he did 4 stars for his stuff. So he gave it 3 stars, and it seems like that's kind of in line. If you look at, and this is a really rare instance where IMDb kind of meets up with critics. Normally, critics will rate something, and IMDb is almost always like way, way, way lower. People like to review bomb on there, and they like to think they know more than they do and sort of poo-poo things because they're like, I'm so smart, and so they want to be smarter than the critics. This is a rare case where I think it's like still to this day is a 7.5 on IMDb, and I think the critics gave it like a 79%. So if you were to look at like Rotten Tomatoes, like overall from accredited critics, it's at like 79%. And interestingly, the audience score is 90%.
Oh, wow.
So audiences kind of overwhelmingly like this more than critics did.
Those audiences are on cannabis.
Well, again,
I think if I were on cannabis, I think I would really enjoy the movie a lot more.
I think
it would be a wonderful way to watch it.
I think if you were like, especially when this came out, if you were like a young art indie film person and you kind of have lived with this for the last, 20 almost 30 years, then, you probably would have a higher value in this,
For sure.
I mean, I remember when when this movie came out, I was going to, Blockbuster was a thing, kids. Google it.
Hey, Blockbuster starts on Netflix.
Yeah.
10 minutes ago. Blockbuster's available on Netflix. Starring Randall Park.
Yeah. It looks good. And what's her name from Brooklyn Nine-Nine's in that too?
Melissa Fumera.
Yes, that's her. That's her. Thank you. But I remember going to Blockbuster and there was like an indie film section, and this was like the early to mid 90s, and nobody really knew what indie film was. But then there was like all of a sudden an independent film channel, and people all of a sudden heard about Sundance, and then there was Quentin Tarantino and Kevin Smith and movies like SLC Punk, and this was kind of slotted in along with that stuff like this and Delicatessen, both. And so I think like if you were sort of coming up into film in that era, you probably give this a higher rating than the critics because you're like, well, this is an opportunity for you to ask your question, Steve, that you had for Beat. This was the era where like watching those films made you feel edgy.
Oh yeah. So Beat, before you joined us.
See how I worked in an opportunity for you?
Very good thinking, because I completely forgot about it. Beat, before you joined us, I used the phrase edgelord, but I'm really not entirely sure what an edgelord is. I just keep hearing it on some of my favorite podcasts that I listen to, and I've never really... I know I've heard it used a lot on this one gaming podcast that I listen to, but I've never really been able to lock down the definition. Do you know what an edgelord is? What do the kids mean when they call somebody an edgelord?
Real quick. So I was like, he mentioned it to me, and he kind of asked me, and I said, I'm too old. I don't know, but if anybody knows, it's Beat. So, Beat?
Well, I don't quite know what it would be. I mean, I think it's just like someone on internet forums, like like you just.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're just like really big in the internet, like edgelord. Like you're like you were saying, like you're edgy. So it's someone who's like in the know, like as far as on the internet.
Is it the people who like comment first on a post?
I don't think so. It's more of the people that are like the people that keep up with everything. Like if you like not like me, because I'm definitely not an edgelord. I've never used that term before, sorry. But
but the term seems derogatory to me. But what you're saying, like being knowledgeable, so is it like is it not derogatory?
It's always having the edge. Like always having the edge, always knowing the information.
I think that might be it. I hadn't even thought of it that way. But yes, always having the edge. Maybe that's it.
Huh, interesting. Because I always feel like I hear it in like sort of a negative, like sarcastic way. So I guess it makes sense. Like if you were sort of like, okay, all right, dude.
If you're ever unsure, go to Urban Dictionary.
Okay, is that what you did?
Oh yeah, good point.
What I always look up stuff on. If I hear a new word that I do not know, Urban Dictionary, like this is what it means.
Yeah,
and here it is used in a sentence.
Yeah. I do want to point out one more thing about the Roger Ebert thing, since we're talking about like style and the critics' ratings and stuff. I don't think Roger Ebert was that big of he gave it 3 stars, but I don't think he was that big of a fan of it. He loved the movie visually, but thought the telling of the plot was lazy and not done well. But I think he thought visually this was like a really special kind of movie.
I can agree with that.
Yeah, I think he's probably right. I think like when you only like half of a movie though, I'm surprised at a 3. You know.
Yeah. But I mean, if the
did we lose him? Oh my gosh, did we lose Steve again? That's amazing that it happened during the podcast recording. Oh my gosh, amazing. Well, you and I can talk a little bit before he comes back, maybe. I'm just gonna text him and see if it goes through. Did we lose you again? I was wondering if it was going to happen. Yeah, so it's not. Oh no, it got delivered. Maybe he pulled the plug out of his microphone. Yeah. So, did you didn't have any other notes, right?
No, I didn't have anything else.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to think of what to vamp about the movie. You liked the rat thing, the rat and the cat. That rat bit the little girl. You know, two animal bites. The rat bit the little girl, and the dog that was on the pulley bit Ron Perlman.
That's wild.
Yeah, I mean, not really all that interesting. The costumes are really good in this movie, I thought. They're all done by, I mean, you might have seen it in the opening credits, but Jean-Pierre Jeunet got Jean-Paul Gaultier to do the wardrobe for this, which is like, he's like legendary designer, and you know, his stuff is like not cheap, you know, and so he was like showing Jeunet, like, this is what I want to use, these are the materials, blah blah blah, and he was like, we can't afford that, and Gaultier was like, I'll cover it, and pay for it out of his own pocket.
What? That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna make outfits how I want to make them. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you're really committed to the art, I do see that he disappeared from the room that we're in. So maybe we can vamp just a little bit more, and maybe he'll be back in time. So this movie was the opening film of the Cannes Film Festival in 1995. It was nominated for the Palme d'Or, which is the main award for the Cannes Film Festival. So it's like, you know, one of maybe the most prestigious film festival award anywhere in the world. So, you know, it's interesting how, like, again, I think if we were watching this in the 90s, probably everybody's opinions would be maybe a little bit different. But this movie's 30 years old, and it kind of feels that way. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think it's a little aged, but I liked it. Yeah. I mean, I didn't really like it, but I liked it.
Ron Perlman said that out of all of the roles that he's ever done, the scene that he regrets the most is, or the scene he hates the most is the one where he attacks the little girl. Just kind of makes me like Ron Perlman a little bit more. I already liked him, but
adorable.
Yeah, I mean, he's done some pretty rough things in his career. Sons of Anarchy, no joke. Pretty heinous. Did you watch Sons of Anarchy?
Did not.
Oh, he's great in that. That's a fun show. Highly recommend.
Like every 5 seconds, you guys are like, not every 5 seconds, but every podcast, you're like, have you watched this? And I'm like, no.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we don't want to assume that you haven't. I should at this point sort of assume that you haven't seen things, but maybe.
I try, just not all caught up.
Boy, he's really having some issues. He's like, I gotta pull the plug. Well, I don't know. What do you think? Do you think we should just wrap it up, or I hate to do that without Steve here. That was a unceremonious exit, but I don't want the viewers to get too bored.
Yeah, I think we're just about done. So
I'm just gonna text him and let him know we're gonna wrap it up without him. Well, I appreciated having Steve. Did you? Was it nice for you to have Steve here with us today?
Yeah, he's freaking awesome.
Yeah, he's a fun guy. He's done some nice work. Well, next week we have another guest. I'm very excited. Another actor friend of mine. And I'll wait to tell the viewers who that is till next week. But I can tell you the movie that we're doing. We are going to watch the comedy film Friday. And guess who has not seen that film?
Who?
Me. I've never seen the movie Friday. Can you believe that? They say now this is your opportunity. And like I set you up there where you're like, you guys always are like asking me, have you seen this? And this is when
I win.
Say Steve is texting me. So Steve is texting me. Oh, that's what he's telling me what to say. Steve is texting me. I think he's giving me his sign off here.
You gotta do him justice.
Steve is texting me asking if we saw The Final Santa Claus. I said it and don't understand what you're saying.
Like the final scene with all of the Santa Clauses?
I guess. I don't know. Maybe it's a joke. He's setting up a joke, maybe. That would be very Steve to be setting up a joke. Yeah, so I haven't seen Friday, and I'm very, very excited to watch it with you, Beat. It was when the submarine guy with his beard and red clothes and handed me a bunch of gifts for the children. Oh, I never even thought about that. That's really smart.
That's adorable.
That's awesome. Good observation, Steve. Well, there we go. I think that's like the best note to end the City of Lost Children on. Beat, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you every single day. And I can't wait to watch more movies with you. What do you think about that?
Ditto.
All right. Everyone, until next week, bon cinema.